You may remember what must have been maybe over a month ago. We covered uh, a bit in Conservative Home where we had um, one of the Conservatives, or at least Conservative Party people in Rotherham, saying about how, um, oh, we have taken Rotherham, or we are about to storm into this massive victory in Rotherham on the local council. You know, we're going to take it all over Rotherham's local council. People don't understand. You know, this is going to be an absolute mad, insane victory, and people are going to look to us to see how good we are and how to replicate it. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be wonderful. Look how much winning we are in Rotherham. Meanwhile, the reality, of course, was that they had barely managed to defend that particular seat in Rotherham. And of course, Labour still were in control of the local council. Again, all this crowing, all this thing about how they were going to win and, turn, Rotherham blue didn't happen. Bear in mind, this is what we saw back in 2019. This is exactly the same the same rhetoric we saw in 2019. In fact, I even had to double check the date that I wasn't misreading something back from that time period, because obviously in 2019 we had that Boris Johnson general victory, and they took the red wall, and then the next big moment was going to be the upcoming local elections, where we will finally not only take all those, red wall MP seats, but we will just sweep away all these Labour councils. We're just going to brush them away. And people remember there was this really bizarre photo shoot that happened where you had Boris Johnson with a brush, symbolising that the Conservatives were going to sweep away all these Labour councils. Of course, what happened? It didn't happen. And ever since then, the Red Wall MPs, those Tory Red Wall MPs, have been incredibly uneasy, saying every local election, oh, this is going to be it, guys, oh, this is finally it, guys. And that hasn't happened. You look at the polls for many of these Red Wall Tory MPs, and they do not look good. We just had the whole thing about Reform UK trying to bribe any potential Red Wall Tory MP into, coming on over. We'll give you 5 years guaranteed worth of salary. I'm surprised none of them took it, to be honest. But we have more for you today, because we've got another delusional story for you. And it is pure delusion. The idea that somehow the Conservatives are not only going to, keep and hold all those Sheffield MPs that they've got, but they're also finally going to sweep away the Labour Sheffield City Council. We've heard these delusions before. We've heard them in 2019. We've heard them pretty much echoed almost every time since then. How many Conservatives are there on the Sheffield City Council? Just to let reality sink in for you, there's one. Just one. They're going to take the council, guys. They're going to take the So, I think of this as yet another cope post from these Tories up in the north, praying and hoping that finally they may have their day in the sun again. And oh boy, as I've said before, next general election, when it all goes a bit wrong, be prepared for the sheer amount of stuff we are going to get on websites like Conservative Home, because it's going to be delicious. It's going to be so delicious. So let's crack on into this. But before we do that, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, there's the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. And of course, it was Wednesday yesterday, so there is the Pony Club video, freshly made and freshly baked for you all, where we talk about the Elgin Marbles situation a bit more. So I hope you enjoy that. So let's crack on into this. So as always, this comes from Conservative Home with the title of "Residents Have No Enthusiasm for Labour Rule in Sheffield." Often referred to as the Socialist Republic of South Yorkshire. Yep, still is, by the way. Still is. An increasing number of the electorate have been switching allegiance over a number of years, gaining 3 parliamentary seats across South Yorkshire in 2019, and puts us on an upward trajectory. The tide was turning. Again, the sheer delusional. Oh, congratulations, you won 3 party seats in 2019 based on Boris Johnson, Brexit, and the promise of levelling up. All 3 things which have failed catastrophically. Okay. So they continue. The tide was turning. Then COVID struck. I have to wonder, and just as a sideline from this, I generally do have to wonder whether this is going to become the new excuse. Oh, if only COVID hadn't come along and ruined Boris Johnson and destroyed levelling up and you know, made a pig's ear of Brexit. It wasn't anything to do with Boris or the lack that we had no idea what we were doing. It was all COVID's fault. I generally have to wonder how many conservatives are going to go forward and start saying, "Oh, it was all COVID's fault." You know, we were all on a massive upward trajectory, and then COVID hit. And then COVID struck, and the local elections across South Yorkshire were postponed until 2021, and we were still riding high in the polls despite the mainstream attempt to thwart the public opinion. What? That is, public opinion was very, very much against the Conservatives in that point. I don't know what mainstream media she was looking at, but there you go. In May of 2021, it arrived, and it did not. Thought public contempt polls. And May 2021 arrived, and not only did all incumbents across South Yorkshire hold on to their seats, some increased their majority. We gained 3 further seats in Doncaster, went away from 0 to 20 seats in Rotherham, and gained a seat in Sheffield, the first one in a generation. Here's the thing, how that overwhelmingly really has happened. Those 20 seats in Rotherham were not gained, a lot of them, by people actually voting for Conservatives. This was the old Reform trick of running as Reform UK and then flipping over to, you know, being a Conservative when you were in. And given, if you know anything about Rotherham's current sort of state of local politics, it seems as if there is, or at least rumors floating about, of a mass defection from being local Conservative councillors to go back to being Reform UK councillors. Could be interesting if that happens. And then, congratulations, you won 1 in Sheffield. It's not the biggest it's not the biggest win ever, guys, but you know, congratulations. As an active Conservative campaigner in May of 2024, This will be my fourth consecutive local election in my constituency of Penistone and Stocksbridge. Ah, you mean good old Miriam Cates. Yeah, I'm sure the residents of Penistone and Stocksbridge are enthused about all the crazy stuff that she's been saying. um, the seat straddles two local authorities of Sheffield and Barnsley, and both authorities are Labour controlled, but it could not be more different. Barnsley is progressive and forward thinking with huge regeneration and development. However, this often runs sustainably over budget. Here's the thing. All this regeneration and development that's been done has been a massive improvement to the town. It has brought new business, new opportunities. Barnsley's on a really good upswing at the moment because of these regeneration and development plans put forward by the Labour Council. And it was your guy on the Barnsley Council who has constantly argued against these things, saying that it would be a waste of time, that we shouldn't be doing with them. And he looks like an absolute tool for saying that. But there you go. Sheffield, the UK's fourth city. The UK's what do you mean? The UK's fourth city? You get. I don't know. Do you mean it's the 10th in terms of city size? It's certainly not fourth. I don't know what you mean by putting that in quotation marks, but okay, there you go. We'll just ignore that then. Sheffield has deteriorated since the 1980s and is almost unrecognizable in places. Gee, I wonder why. What happened in the 1980s that caused the deterioration of Sheffield? Oh, that's right. It was the deindustrialization caused by your party, by Margaret Thatcher. And Sheffield has really been turning it around themselves. They really do have a good vision going forward. They are doing a lot of good work. They're regenerating a lot of not only just the city centre, but the surrounding areas as well. There's a lot of opportunities going forward in Sheffield, and he's probably about to again rubbish all these things as well. Doesn't surprise me. So as she continues, the council lacks vision. It is anti-business, with John Lewis permanently closed during the pandemic. How is it anti-business? Wait, what? How is it? And how is Sheffield City Council anti-business when John Lewis closed during the pandemic? Sheffield City Council had nothing to do with that, unless this person is an anti-lockdown stan, which, to be honest, saying that, I think she might be. And it's anti-car, and is anti-car with its, quote, unpopular clean air zone. It's actually quite popular, but there you go. Actually has done a lot of good for cleaning up the environment, especially in and around the areas where it has been. But okay, you cling that delusion. Labour councillors complain about the lack of government funding while consistently wasting public money and failing to collect unpaid council tax. No, they are well within their right to complain about the lack of government funding. That is absolutely 100% true, because it is your party that has not given, or at least delivered on, any of its funding promises through the levelling up money. It has not replaced the money that was lost from the EU development grants. It has cut council budgets to the bone. Sheffield And again, my own hometown being on the bad end of that, because as Rishi Sunak said himself, I took money from the poor areas and gave it to the richer. I wonder what this person would have in response to that comment, but by Rishi Sunak, the person in charge of her party. So to claim to infect, failing to collect unpaid council tax, and of course, pre-pandemic arrears stood at an eye-watering, to quote the then leader of the council, Terry Fox, £64,889, £89,000. Again, yeah, big, but so what? A lot of councils are in a far, far worse state. A lot of councils are in a far, far worse state. A lot of Tory-led councils are in a far worse state than this. But this is why the Labour councillors have been complaining about the lack of government funding to be able to put into this, because Sheffield, like any other city, is having big problems with a continuing aging population, has to spend more and more on its, on its social care budget. It's a city. Most cities are running into this problem. And if they don't start developing stuff, they don't start building and preparing for the future, that social care budget is going to just rapidly start eating away at anything else. And because if the central government doesn't start forking over the money to level up these places as they promised, we're going to be in a big problem. So I've knocked on thousands of doors and have yet to hear a positive word about the council and its Labour leadership. Well, congratulations. You can probably go to any council up and down the country and probably hear the exact same thing. I've said it many times. Local government is not the first thing that people think of, but local government, as I've said many times, is in many cases far more important than national government. But people just don't pay attention to it. And of course, the first thing they blame, is the council. I noticed you said Labour leadership. Have you been honest about the rotating mayoralship that takes place on Sheffield City Council? Don't think you have. But of course, it would be interesting to see if it is Labour leadership they are complaining about or council that they are complaining about. But there you see. On May the 5th, the day after the local elections, the National Labour Party put the Sheffield Labour Group into special measures. Subsequently, 8 councillors have now resigned the whip and formed an independent group. Despite Labour's failings, some voters are tribal, and they have always voted Labour and always will. You could pin a red rosette on a donkey, and it would always be elected in some wards. This is not the home counties. I love this, the fact that, this isn't the home counties. You wouldn't be able to get away with this in the home counties. No, you would be exactly be able to get away with this in the home counties. And here's the thing. Yeah, there are a lot of people who are tribal. I know, obviously, the special measures you're talking about has a lot to do, of course, with still the fallout of course, Jeremy Corbyn stuff, but also sort of the whole, Hamas, Israel's Palestine war that's going on at the moment. Well, more Hamas Israel than Palestine, but whatever. But yeah, there's a lot more stuff going on, unfortunately, in Labour, sort of locally, politically. Maybe we should do a video about it at some point. But to be honest, it's a bit of a mess over in Sheffield. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, this is not the home counties. Oh no, you could do that in exactly the home counties. But the good news is our voters are on the whole still with us. Some might not be fully on board, but they are certainly not switching to Labour. A small number have moved to Reform UK, and the defenestration of Suella Braverman and the appointment of Lord Cameron will not have helped in the Red War. I'm at least glad that they agree with that. on that front, as we've said, yeah, it's not going to help you in the red wall. Or his comments on having a quote closer ties with the EU are futile and will not sit well in South Yorkshire, which overwhelmingly voted leave. And of course, that in itself has now changed dramatically as well. The disastrous local election results on May the 5th across the county could have been repeated at the by-election in the Dinnington ward, part of the Rotherham Valley constituency, in July, where Alexander Salford, a well-thought and one of active MP, check his quote Facebook page, introduced our candidate, Julia Hall, as a local resident and business owner. Julia had been following the local campaigning before it commenced, and this was coupled with an active association and councillors who not only bucked the trend on the national results of May, but increased the vote by winning a comfortable 242 votes. Wow. 242 votes. How many times have I said on this channel, you can get in a local council with like 300 votes? It is not hard to go into some of these things, and especially when it comes to by-elections as well. Like, you look at the May local council elections, how bad the turnout was for that, with roughly about, I think the national turnout was like 25%. By-elections, oof. By-elections dip even more than that, and again, winning by 224, 240, 204 votes in a local election, that is by no means safe. That is by no means safe. That could be overturned incredibly easy. And possibly, who knows, will at the next local election. This is why I keep on saying all these crowings that these like northern conservatives doing about how well we're doing up in the north, and that we should be quote celebrated more. When you look at them and generally look at them, they're not really doing that good. They are really not. And it's just funny to go through and read these things about how wonderful and awesome they think they are doing. In reality, they are not, because I'll tell you now, if a Conservative council took over Sheffield, you would not be having the big, massive redevelopment that's currently happening, the big development into sort of business, bringing sort of new business units, all these types of things that's currently going on in Sheffield. They would enforce a very strict level of austerity. They would cut services to the council even more. You would probably see a lot of layoffs happen as well as a result of that. They would sell off a ton of public land, as Tory councils traditionally do, to try and pay for the social care budget. Of course, that would only last so long. It is a short-term measure that doesn't end up working in the long term, because eventually you run out of things to sell. And what happens then when you run out of things to sell? Well, this is what a lot of Tory councils are now running into. They've run out of things to sell, and oh no, what do we do now? Can we have some more money, please, central government? So let's continue. In addition to selecting candidates who reside or have connections in the ward, it quote definitely gives you an advantage. Well, of course it gives you an advantage. It's local elections. The key to winning council elections is messaging, engagement, and the collection of voting intention. Know where your pledges are and ensure that they vote. Congratulations, that's campaigning 101. As well as ideally asking them to register for a postal vote. Keep literature and conversations positive and local. Most people do not care what's happening in Westminster. Well, they do. And they want to see a reliable bus service, community infrastructure, levy money spent locally, and put to good use. Congratulations. That's pretty much what Sheffield City Council have been doing all this time. And of course, general improvements to the local area. Sheffield Council take heed. Well, they have been doing that quite substantially for quite some time now, but there you go. Spending nearly 5 hours in the full council meeting debating the conflict in Gaza is not a good use of time or public money. This is clearly an important issue, but it is not the right forum to debate it in. Yes, technically, I do agree, but there's still answers and questions that should be, asked about that. And I think that trying to focus, getting like, local Labour councillors to come out and stand on this when it is more a national issue rather than the local party issue that really should be sort of taken to. eh, Again, just have a difference, should we say, in campaigning on that front. But there you go. Um, the Labour Party are a campaigning machine in red wall seats. They are very good in it up here. I'll tell you that now. It's why when it came to the red wall, they lost again, and they'd been warning for quite some time. But of course, as we said before, Jeremy Corbyn and Momentum did not listen. Then, of course, well, we all knew what happened. But they put that campaigning machine into overdrive when it came to local councils, and of course, they did not, shall we say, sweep away all these Labour councils. Councillors and MPs travel across the country to campaign. Most do not need to do anything in their own seat/ward. Most do not need to do anything in their own seat or ward. So what? A councillor or an MP should not campaign in their own ward. Okay. Okay. Um, their messaging is government bashing and general negative campaigning, even for local elections. Um, Certainly, yes. Of course, MPs are obviously going to talk about national stuff because that's more their thing when it comes to it. Um, and yes, it is your government, the one that you stand for, that's been doing incredibly bad, and of course, I think should be punished for it, not only just nationally but locally as well. The record for Conservative councils is not, shall we say, particularly that good at the moment. Um, like I say, of course, someone will bring up, oh, but what about Birmingham? Yes, Birmingham was just an unfortunate case of where there were a lot of outstanding past issues, particularly with the well, what was it now? The equal payment things that happened, and of course, they were yet another council going, "Hey, central government, we need more money, so that we can cover these things, so that we can, keep things." And of course, well, they didn't listen. But that's currently central government. But there you go. So anyway, we'll go. No one's where they stand for locally. No one knows what they stand for locally. Well, actually, probably they do. I've seen a lot of action from the local council. I know what they stand for. They have been pushing a lot of the development stuff recently, a lot of the pro-business stuff, even though you just called them anti-business because COVID shut down John Lewis. A lot of discussions about how to use that empty space, and a lot of really good discussions, I think, coming from Labour. Not, of course, the Conservatives, who are like, well, we should just sell it and turn it into offices and or flats. Um, that is what the Conservatives putting forward. Meanwhile, Labour, the Lib Dems, and the Green Party are putting forward actual good, interesting plans to turn that into all kinds of different things for the local community. I think that could turn out, and some of the stuff that's being put forward by these different groups is really good, and it's being considered. Conservatives, not so much. But there you go. So to counter this, we need to know the local issues and what can realistically be achieved. We never overpromise. We are currently capacity building for our team. Our leaflet deliverers is increasing to allow candidates to canvases more time to knock on doors and have those vital conversations. The public generally want to speak to us, and I've witnessed voters, quote, pledging to vote for us for no other reason than we have knocked on their door and other parties have not. Um, that is actually quite a big thing. And it really comes down to sort of volunteers. Um, it is true, being able to knock on the door. Oh, I'll vote for you. But of course, when they're in the voting, when they're in the voting booth, maybe not. Um, but no, it does come down to just the sheer amount of volunteers. And Sheffield is a big, big city. Um, being able to sort of properly canvass for it and be able to do that means you need a lot of volunteers. And I've said before, if you want to get involved in local politics, go out, get in contact with your local Labour Party, whatever party you may be affiliated with, and volunteer. Go leaflet dropping, because that will be a massive help to them. So yeah, in the local elections of May 2024, of course, will be tough. At least they acknowledge that. Like I say, I don't think it's going to go their way as they predict. I can say this whole thing of, oh, we won one seat, given how, should we say, things went in Rotherham at the local elections. Yeah, yeah, not too bad. You might maybe manage to keep it. You might hold on to it. I don't think you will, to be honest, given the way that polling intentions is showing on this front. But again, we're winning. We're doing well. We're coping. We're coping. We're coping. We're winning. We're winning, guys. We're winning. Yeah. We'll see. And of course, that is currently the coping strategy, of course, from Sheffield. People from Sheffield, please do feel free to let me know what you think of this down below. If you do happen to be a local member of the Labour Party, please do tell me what you think of this hilarious campaigning pledge of councillors and MPs shouldn't campaign in local areas, while also saying at the same time you've had people knock on your door, being able to speak to the councillor, and then pledge just to vote for you because no other councillor has turned up. It's either really important or not important. But there you go. So, as always, this has been a bit of a long one. I didn't realize that. But anyway, thank you very much, of course, as always. And, of course, we'll see you all next time.